Hi, aviation operations students. I would like to introduce you to Andrea Coppick, and she is a captain with Alaska Airlines and a lot of other things. So I will let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about how she got where she's going and where she is. Andrea, thank you so much for being willing to speak with my class.
Hi, Heidi. Thank you so much. It's really nice to be here, and I just appreciate the opportunity. I've been in aviation for a really long time, and it started with an airplane ride when I was about 7 years old. I was just a young girl, and my mom had this friend who came over to take us to lunch, and I didn't know she had her own airplane. So next thing I know, we're flying over to California to have lunch, and it was from Reno over to California. So a really short hop. But that day, I just decided right then and there I wanted to be a pilot, and I've never changed my career focus. No one in my family flew, so I didn't know anything about how to become a pilot. But I just kept looking to the sky and always, watching the airplanes. And I'd say when I was about 14, a friend of the family said, if you want to be a pilot, you have to go to Embry-Riddle. And I didn't know, like, there wasn't internet searches, Google. You couldn't Google how to become a pilot. So I just kind of really relied on, this source of information. And so I ended up going to Embry-Riddle. Didn't even know there were other flight schools out there, but it worked out really well. Got my 4-year degree there, did all my flight training there. I hadn't even had any other flying experiences really to that point. Um, Came out with a bachelor's in aeronautical science, and it was a bad time in the industry. Initially, I thought I was going to be a corporate pilot, but I ended up like going up to Alaska for a couple of years, like trying to get on working up there. And eventually kind of transferred into this mechanic program. So I have a A&P mechanic certificate as well. And that was just kind of something to do to gain more knowledge and kind of put some more things on the resume, and just really develop myself as not only a pilot, but someone who had a way to fall back if, the flying thing didn't work out, and I'd have other options. And I did end up flight instructing up there for a little while. I did a number of flight instructing jobs. Again, it was kind of a bad time in the industry, so it was just slow going. And also I didn't really know anyone, so networking is a really important thing in aviation. I ended up instructing for about 7 years, and in that time, I was married and I had twin girls, so I kind of had to juggle. So I've been a little bit slower in my career than a lot of people. So I was trying to juggle being at home and managing the flying on the side, and so I flight instructed for probably about 7 years. And then my opportunity came up to do some charter flying. So I would just, I would take any opportunity to kind of advance and get more hours. So if someone said, hey, let's go, fly here or there, I would just hop in and go along for the ride. Anyway, I made a contact who ended up hiring me into a Part 135 charter operation. And that's how I started gaining more experience. And then because of that job, then I got an interview at Horizon Air and ended up working there for about 13 years. And then finally got an interview at Alaska. So I've been at Alaska for 7 years, was a first officer for about 5. And I don't know, I guess the biggest thing I would say it's been made my career a success is I never really had an end goal in mind. I just knew I wanted to fly. So I never knew like what the barriers were, or, what it was going to be like, but I can tell you what it is like now that I'm here. Airline gig is pretty darn easy. It's just an amazing career. Sometimes I just have to pinch myself because, not only am I making good money, got great benefits, like the travel, the health benefits is amazing. Honestly, at the major carrier level, I'm not gone from home as much. So it seems like a little bit easier flying than what I did at the regional level. But, I still am gone, and like time zone changes are a little bit challenging. And also I'm on call, like I'm a junior captain, so I'm on call and don't have like a set schedule. So, that kind of wears on you, but, at some point I'll be like a regular line holder, and but overall it's totally worth all the negatives of the reserve and unknown schedule. So I was looking at your little sheet that you had here, and I kind of was looking at your categories of like, little or no knowledge in the career field, and, knowing about the environment and stuff. And I was definitely in the one category when I started all this. And it just, because I never really knew the end goal, it's just really turned out well. So, and the way I've always done it is whatever I was working on, I would have a current goal, and then I would always establish the next goal. So, when I was like private pilot, okay, my next step is an instrument, and after that is this. And I've also, added on other things, like when I got that A&P mechanic, that's really been useful. I got my seaplane ratings, just take any opportunity to learn something new and develop myself. And I think that's really helped. Plus, it's just fun. It's just fun to learn new things. So I really recommend that. And just don't pay attention to the barriers. I think if you set your mind to something, you don't have to worry about how it's going to come to be. It will be when you put your mind to it. So those barriers will kind of fall away as you progress. So
We like to remind our non-traditional students that it's not a race, that there's not a set timeline, that you just work with what you have. And I think that idea that you're working on a goal and then you're also thinking how that applies to your next goal, it kind of gives some relevance to the work that you're doing now, knowing that it will add to that future goal as well.
Yeah, and like I said, networking is really important. One of the greatest networking facilities, I guess, is Women in Aviation organization. But there's a number of them, like OBAP is another. It's like for Black pilots, and there's like mechanics, there's Whirly Girls, there's Civil Air Patrol. There's a lot of different aviation organizations that will help you network and help give you guidance and access to mentors. And and sometimes if that person doesn't know something, but they might know someone who does. And so just making those connections, it really can help you progress in your career and give you ideas. And I think in aviation, if you just stay flexible and go where the opportunities come up, it'll all, work out just great.
Well, and you have, being a captain for Alaska Airlines is only one of the pies you have your fingers in. You want to share with the students some of the other things you're doing?
So I wrote a kid's book, and it's based on that first flight story that I had from when I was a little girl. And like second to flying, writing has been a passion. And so I was able to get this kid's book going. And so I have that, and just trying to reach, young people at such a critical age, and especially girls, but boys too, like encouraging kids to just go out and have adventures and see what makes them happy in life and follow their dreams, no matter how big they are or how possibly unattainable they seem, because they can be achieved if you get down to it. Another thing I do on the side is a scholarship program. And that is run through Women in Aviation. So my little scholarship program is just one of about $1 million worth of funds that is given every year for scholarships through Women in Aviation. So that is an amazing organization to be involved with. And honestly, the membership is cheap. It's only like $40 a year. And I think they even do like student discounts and stuff. So there's lots of scholarship opportunities there.
So have you thought about any next steps? So you've gotten this big goal out of the way. What's the next one?
Next step. So I think kind of this is getting towards the pinnacle of this career. I've been at it for 30 years. I think the only last step would be to become an instructor or a check pilot at Alaska. Another option they have is a functional flight check pilot. So there's a group that is kind of like they're on the maintenance side, a little bit attached to the maintenance side. Like they'll go, and when a plane is coming out of a heavy check, they'll go check that plane out and do, extensive like pre-flights and just making sure everything's in working order and bring it back into service. So that would be interesting, because that would combine like my maintenance background with the flying background. So that might be an option.
Well, I never thought I would tie my computer science degree to my meteorology. I thought I'd have to go one way or the other. And then I was at Texas Instruments and was able to put both of them together. So it's always interesting. One of the things is that they say that at least 10% of the jobs that current students will be in don't exist when they're in school.
Mm-hmm.
And and certainly women with both A&Ps and commercial pilot license are not something that's very common out there.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, speaking to like the women aspect, like at the airline level, you know, we have about 5 to 8%, I believe, are, you know, throughout the industry are women. I think Alaska Airlines is on the higher side of it. We employ a lot of women. So they're really about diversity and just equality. Like we are all just pilots. And so it's great to have just be part of a very professional pilot organization. And, you know, but there's lots of ladies in the group, and I always have a lot of fun when I fly with the all-female crew. You know, that happens quite often. And so it's really fun.
All right. Yeah, we're introducing students to careers, and then they'll also do some research on their own to use that rubric that you have to do a 3-minute presentation. And it's always interesting because at first they think that's really long, and then they do the research and they realize they could easily do a 15-minute presentation. But one of the things that we do in aviation, there's that idea of briefings, making sure that we take all the information and boil it down to just what we need to have. And so that is one of the things that I work with on my student or with my students.
Yeah. That sounds like good prep for airline interview too. You know, like I'd say the airline interview process is definitely a challenging one. I mean, I've always done airline interviews, so I don't know what else is other jobs are like. But you know, airline interviews, you definitely have a lot of like face-to-face, but there's a lot of you know, they're looking at your logbooks and looking at your resume. So you just, you know, really need to start working on your resume and just keep, you know, making it better and improving and have other people look at it. And so really represent yourself well so you get a good job, and it'll totally be worth it. But there's lots of other flying jobs too. I mean, honestly, another thing I kind of consider that might be a next step for me would be like kind of not really opening a flight school, but I kind of have this idea of like there is a group down in Texas. It's called GIFT, Girls in Flight Training. So it's kind of like a freebie system where the girls kind of come in for free training and the planes are donated. And so it just really kind of helps promote women. And I'd love to do something like that here in Seattle. So, but it's spare time. Right now it's have spare time for traveling. So maybe someday.
Well, and maybe next year, if we're all face to face, you'll have an opportunity to meet some of the students in person, because you have a daughter at MSU, correct?
Yes, I do. Yep.
So hopefully we can make that
she'll be done by then.
All right. Thank you so much, Andrea. I will be posting your web link along with this video, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.